We interrupted an important experiment in progress.
I am Chucky.
Pennywise the ants.
You will get you
I want to play a game.
Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and welcome to the start of my 31 days Howling review series for this year of 2022. Now, if you don't know what this is, if you're new to my channel, this is an annual review series where each October I cover nothing but horror movies, which that's what my channel basically does already. But this, I specifically picked October to basically cover just any horror movies, really. It's a full-on grab bag. I've been doing this since 2019. I did the first couple years on my main channel, Blood Moon Productions, and then I did a third year on this channel, Blood Moon Talk Horror, so my second channel, and now I'm doing the fourth year on this channel as well, and this is where you're going to be seeing this review series every year. Is on my second channel, Blood Moon Talk Horror. Now, I like doing these. I've done these for 4 years now. I hope to keep on doing more of these. Hopefully we don't run out of horror movies to talk about. So yeah, and again, I could go with any genre really, for the most part, with some exceptions. Now, the film I'm going to be discussing about is a sequel to a film I covered last year on my 31 Days of Howling review series, and that is Tremors 2 Aftershocks from 1996.
Don't move. Don't breathe. And whatever you do, don't make a sound. Because they're back.
Get off the ground, Grady! Get off the ground!
Preparing to fire.
What are they?
We don't know. The worms changed somehow. Now we've got these things.
Tremors 2. Aftershocks. Evolution. It's a bitch.
Tremors 2 stars Fred Ward, Christopher Garson, I think that's how you pronounce his name, if not, here's his name here, Helen Shaver, Michael Gross, and it's directed by S.S. Wilson. The plot of Tremors 2 Aftershocks is that giant underground creatures plow their way through the Mexican oil fields, gobbling up everything and anyone around. Two desert desperados partner with a young guy in need of kicks, cash, and a career change, and a sexy and interpreted scientist. Now, before I talk about this film, I would like to kind of share a quick bit of thoughts of the first film. Yes, I already reviewed it, but I would like to kind of discuss my thoughts on the first film, since, again, this is a direct continuation of the first film. And I really enjoyed the first film. You know, I just love it. It's a fun movie. It is a fun kind of action adventure, kind of somewhat horror, has a lot of comedy. You know, Kevin Bacon, and all of them are really good. And yeah, I just love the first film. Now, coming into the second one, Tremors 2 Aftershocks, what do I think of it? Does it hold a candle to the first film? Or is it one of those things where it's like, maybe they should have never done sequels in the first place? Let's talk about it. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I think for the most part it captures the feel and charm of the first movie rather well. Sure, we don't got Kevin Bacon in the film. They kind of mention him a bit in the beginning of the film, and basically is like to kind of explain why he's not in this one, and that's basically he has a wife now and all that, which I'm assuming was his romantic interest in the first movie. The only returning cast members in this movie is Fred Ward as Earl and Michael Gross as Burt Gummer. Those are the only two cast members who even remotely came back for this film. And honestly, that's not a bad thing, because I like both these characters, actually, especially Burt Gummer. He is just a crazy son of a gun. He just kind of has this kind of weird charm about him and his performance. And that's another positive I have too, is the characters, for the most part, are all really good. I like the characters for the most part, even the new ones. Like I did like Christopher Gartman's character as Grady Hoover. I did like him. He's basically the replacement for Kevin Bacon's character, Val. And you got Earl's romantic interest, Helen Shaver, who plays Kate in the film. And, I just like their chemistry with each other. And again, I like the chemistry between Earl and Grady. They have, like, this kind of, like, funny kind of, like, banter with each other. And again, in regards to Earl and Kate, I felt that they, the romance in the film was pretty good, actually. And I like seeing them together. And, for the most part, like, in regards to visual presentation, which I'll discuss that in my mixed spots, actually, but, the runtime, it is an hour, like, it's about an hour and a half movie, and honestly, it feels like that. It doesn't overstay its welcome in most cases. Again, I'll talk about that in my mixed spots, because honestly, I have very little negatives in this movie. Overall, this film still uses mostly practical effects like the first film. There are some digital effects, but honestly, the digital effects aren't as noticeable, and it's actually still rather good, but the practical effects are still pretty good. I like that they did something a bit different, showing that these, not only are the grab blades getting smarter, but they're also evolving. They went from being these giant worms to being these little kind of, I honestly wouldn't know what you would call them. I think the term for these new grab blades, if I'm not mistaken, are shriekers. They never are called that in the film. I'm honestly kind of surprised. They're never called shriekers in the movie. But that's why I think they're called. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comment section below. But that's why I think they're called, and it makes perfect sense to call them that, considering all they just do is shriek and make this sound. Yeah, that's all they do, basically. And they're like smaller versions of the giant worm grab blades. Smaller versions. And again, the practical effects on them are pretty good. Even some of the digital effects are pretty good. And again, this is 1996, so it's still in the early stages of CGI. And I think they made the right choice to mostly do practical effects in this. Because if they went, kind of exploited CGI with this movie, man, it would look a lot worse than it does. So, because again, for me, I'm all about practical effects. Don't get me wrong, CGI has given us amazing stuff. I mean, hell, I look at films like Toy Story and like what Pixar's doing. Or, the CGI in Jurassic Park, which is also a Universal property. But for me, it's like, because here's the thing, like the best practical effects are going to look a lot better than the best digital effects, and the worst practical effects is going to look better than the worst digital effects. Like seriously, tell me I'm wrong. Like, just think about a movie that had some of the worst digital effects, and then think about a movie that had some of the worst practical effects. Now take both those movies, and which one do you think will have the better effect? My guess is it'll be the one that has the worst practical effect, because it's something actually there. So I really appreciate that they still utilize a lot more practical effects than digital effects. Now, I'm not sure how they handled that as the films go on, because there's now 7 movies. I think the newest one is called Tremors Streaker's Island. I have yet to get to that. So, in fact, so far I've only seen the first 3 movies, in fact, I haven't even finished the third one, I don't think, Tremors 3 Back to Perfection, which I will review that next year for my 31 Days of Howling review series. So, just expect me to do a Tremors review. Okay, so either what I might do is I might either review the rest of the Tremors movies next year, starting early next year, or I will save them for each of my 31 Days of Howling review series. Tell me in the comments below what would you guys like to see me do. But anyway, for the most part, this is just such a fun movie. I can't think of much negatives, but I do have a couple things I'm rather mixed on. So let's get right into that. Okay, so one of the things I'm rather mixed on is, while for the most part the pacing is actually pretty good, there are a few points where it starts to kind of drag. Not terrible, but does start to drag. But again, it's just a nitpick. And honestly, I think that's my only really mixed thing. That's the only thing I'm mixed on, really, is the pacing. I can't remember. I knew I had something else, but I can't remember. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal for me to remember, especially compared to the pacing. And even then, the pacing problem is just a nitpick, because it's not you know, when it does drag, it's not terrible, you know? Like, it doesn't, like, ruin my experience of the movie. And as for negatives, I got none. I got no negatives, like, nothing in this film that I absolutely hated. So let's move on to my rating. So with that said, I'm going to give Tremors 2 Aftershocks a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Again, not as good as the first film. I mean, like, it's like very, like here's the first film, pretty high, and here's the second film, just right above that. It's right above that. So, Tremors 2 is still a rather fun movie. It for the most part, captures the feel and style of the first film and that charm of the first movie pretty well. I still like all the characters, like the two that came back, with Earl and Bert, and I also like some of the new characters in here too. And the practical effects are still really good. They rarely use digital effects, and again, for the most part, it captures the feel and charm of the original Tremors. Yes, even though it doesn't have Kevin Bacon and all that, honestly, I don't think this film really needed him. It would have been cool to see Kevin Bacon back, but with what they were able to do with this film, it was really good. Honestly, I highly recommend Tremors 2. If you have only just seen the first movie, go and watch Tremors 2. If you've seen all the films, but it's been a while since you've seen them, go revisit them. Like, more so, like, revisit the first one and even this one. I still need to finish watching the third one, and I have yet to see all of the other Tremors movies. So, from Tremors 4, The Legend Begins, all the way through Tremors 7, Shrieker's Island. So that's it for this review. Tell me in the comments below, what did you guys thought of this movie? Are you a fan of it? Do you think it's as good as the first movie? Or do you think this is either just as the start of the downcline of the Tremors franchise? Or do you think this is just complete garbage and they should have never made sequels to begin with? Tell me what your thoughts are down in the comments below. If you're new to my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button. And also, whether you're new or not, if you like my video, be sure to hit the like button, because both subscribing to my channel and hitting that like button would definitely help out my channel so that I can give you guys much better content. And this is just only the beginning of my 31 days of Halloween review series. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.